What's up guys, welcome back to another video, and in this tutorial I'm going to talk to you guys about something called bound services. Now the services that we created in the last couple tutorials, they were great and all, but if you guys ever try to have any level of communication between your app and that service, it may have caused some issues. So in this tutorial what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you guys about bound services, and it allows us to communicate with the service a little bit better than the old ones. So the first thing I did is I started a brand new project, and I didn't do anything weird. I just chose blank activity. So again, we got one Java file, one design, pretty boring. And what I want this app to do, of course I need the user to do something and then it makes some service happen. So all my service is going to do is it's going to get the time. So pretty dumb, but it's a pretty simple example of how this is all going to work. So let me delete this text view right here and instead draw a large one so you guys can see it better. And this of course is eventually going to display the time whenever the user clicks a button, and we'll give them this button right here. So just so we can be clear on what's going on, this button they can click and we'll say like, what's the time? So they click that and it'll display the time, so we really don't need to change this text at all. However, what I would like to do is change the IDs of these. Alright, so the ID of text view could be Bucky's text, and the button ID could be Bucky's button. And the last thing I want to do is, of course, whenever they do click this, we want something to happen, so we need to go down to the on click, and what can we call this? Let's just call it show time. So again, we're gonna have to build this method in a little bit, but eventually they're gonna click it and it's gonna call some service, and the service is going to display the time on the screen right there. So pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and make that service now that we got our very basic interface set up. So of course you guys already know how to do this. If you go down to your main package and right click and choose new service, just the plain one, and we can just keep the default name, why the heck not, and finish it up. So this is what we get by default. Okay, pretty sweet. But now we have to figure out, how do we make this binder thing, whatever the heck that is, how do we make this app the ability to connect with this service? Let me just rearrange this, and I messed everything up. Alright, so there we go. So the first thing I want to do is we need to create a new object, and this object is going to be responsible essentially for connecting whatever the app is called. It's called the client, and the service is just called the service. So we want to bind the client to the service. So that's the technical term. So we need first an object that's going to do this. Now if you actually, we need to import some stuff first. Alright, so import android.os binder, and of course we need to import all the stuff to make us to give us access to change the time. So that is just java.text.simple date format, import java.util.date, and import java.util.local or locale, whatever. Alright, so now that we got all of our stuff that we're going to use imported, we can first create an object that's going to be the binder object. So again, this is kind of like the bridge that's going to connect your app to your service, or your client to your service. So I'm going to go private final. It's an iBinder object. I'm just going to name mine Bucky's binder, and we're going to set it equal to new my local binder. Now this, as you notice, is going to give us an error because this is a class that we didn't create yet. Now I'm going to mention this right now. The way that you bind a client to a service It's kind of weird how Android makes it set it up, but I promise by the end of this video you're gonna understand it. However, when I'm trying to talk through it, it's a weird little process, and it kind of involves an extra step that you may think, okay, what's the point of that? And I think it too. It's just the way that Android makes you do it. Alright, so again, this is the object that's going to be responsible for the bridge, the bind between your client and your service. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create this class. So let me show line numbers and give myself a little more space. And we'll create it right at the bottom here. So public class, let me just copy that. My local binder extends binder. Right there. So the first rule is whenever you want to bind a client to a service, you need to make an object that extends the binder class. And this says, hey, this class is going to be capable of binding two things together. Now the only thing we want this class to be capable of doing is returning a reference to this. It's pretty much superclass, because whenever we have access to that, we can use all the methods that are in here. So if you go to my service, or whatever you named your service whenever you started, and make a method called get service. Now all this method is going to do, and this is the only method that's going to be in the class, is it's going to return my service this. So again, essentially what it boils down to is whenever we want to bind a client to a service, we need to create a new class that has the ability to bind. Now the only thing this class is going to do is it's going to return a reference to this class, and then we can use this stuff inside here. So pretty simple enough. Again, it's kind of weird that you have to like make something to get inside what you were already just at, but you know, that's how it works. Now the one last thing that we need to do is for this on bind, if I can select everything, what this method is going to do, if you delete all of this, it's just going to return Bucky's binder. Alright, so let's step back and see what's going on. Eventually, this is our client, this is our main activity. It's going to try to bind to this service. Now whenever this activity binds to this service, it goes inside here and it looks for a method called onBind. So this is what you want me to do whenever I'm trying to bind. Well, what instructions are you giving me? Return Bucky's binder. So what Bucky's binder is just an instance of this class right here, and this class gives you access or returns a reference to my service, pretty much allowing you to access anything inside here. So again, we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna go here, and then here, and then we can access the stuff inside the class. And I know it's stupid, but that's how Android makes it work. And most of the time, people just they just like copy this and paste it, but you know, you're already like one step ahead of everyone else, because most people, to be honest, they don't even know how it works. But now we know how it works behind the scenes, and well, we're on our way to becoming a pro Android developer. Now, one other method I'm going to put in this class. Of course, this service has to do something, right? I mean, now that we got access and did all the hard work, it's going to be a waste of time if it doesn't do anything. So remember I said that the main point of this service is just to get the current time. So this is finally the easy part. So public string, I'll just name it get current time. And all this is going to do, and if you ever watch my like normal Java tutorials, you're going to understand all this. So new simple date format, and how do you want to display the time? Well, let's just display it like a clock. The hour in front, then the minutes, then the seconds. You can actually have dates in here like months, years, days, but I just wanted to display time really simple. And I'm going to set mine to the United States because I am in the United States right now. And of course, we need to return it. So return the date format, df, not dtf, and the format is just a date object. So again, we're pretty much just returning a date object, and then we're saying, okay, this is how I want you to format it, with the hours, minutes, and seconds. So again, this is actually the easy part, and eventually whenever we bind to this service, we're going to be able to call get current time, and it's going to give us the current time. So now that we got all the hard stuff out of the way, the next tutorial, finishing everything up, writing the code in here, binding to the service, is actually going to be pretty easy to understand.